The one word that destroyed us, and the slow, quiet way we learned to breathe again. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. I once called the man I loved a filthy animal because he knew too much about his little sister's bodies, and in that same instant he threw me out of the home he had built for them. We had been together for a full year. He has 3 younger siblings he has raised alone ever since he fled a house ruled by violent, drunken parents. At 18, he fought the courts and won full custody of all 3. He is the hardest working person I've ever met. Under his roof, no one has ever wanted for anything essential. Food, clothes, school supplies, love, everything has always been there because of him. I fell hopelessly in love with that fierce, gentle protectiveness of his. The youngest boy even calls him Dad now. Their real parents are ghosts. No one knows if they're alive or dead, and there is no aunt, no uncle, no grandparent. Just the 4 of them against the world. Last night I had slept over. At 6 in the morning, his 12-year-old sister ran into the kitchen sobbing, terrified because she had woken up to blood in her panties. It was her first period. My boyfriend calmed her with the patience of someone who has done this before. He explained that her body was simply growing up, that it was perfectly normal, that nothing was wrong with her. He told her to shower, showed her exactly where her older sister kept the pads, and reminded her how to use them. When the girl left for the bathroom, he sighed and said, almost to himself, "I really thought we had at least 1 more year." That sentence cracked something open inside me, and before I could stop myself, I spat out, "You disgusting pig." I watched the light die in his eyes. He didn't yell, he didn't curse. He just looked at me like I had buried a blade between his ribs, then said in a voice colder than I ever thought he could produce, "Get out." I left barefoot, clutching my bag, wearing nothing but the t-shirt I had slept in. I told myself he was overreacting, that he just needed time, that he was extra sensitive because it was his sister. Hours became days. No call, no message, nothing. He blocked me on every platform, erased me completely, as if I had become a danger to his family. Deep down, I knew it wasn't just one ugly word. In that second, I had accused him of the worst thing imaginable, and he heard it loud and clear. So did his siblings. Days later, at the insurance office where I work in Malaga, my colleague Antonio, the only person who knew the whole story, leaned over and whispered, "Your guy took indefinite leave from work. Said he needs time." I asked if Marcos was okay, but I already knew he wasn't. That night I stared at the ceiling, remembering how I used to admire him. The way he made breakfast at 5:30 a.m., packed lunches, checked homework, attended parent-teacher meetings for 3 different schools, worked a full shift, studied at night, and still found energy to play with them. I had fallen in love with the way he loved them, and then I stabbed him in the exact spot that hurt the most. On Friday evening, someone left a grocery bag outside my apartment door. Inside was a short note in his handwriting. "Do not come back." I slid down the wall and cried until my ribs ached. I tried to help from a distance. Anonymous online grocery orders paid with my card, school supplies sent to their address, gift cards slipped into the mailbox. I never knew if they kept them or threw them away. It didn't matter. I just needed to do something. One afternoon, sitting on a bench near Maria Zambrano station, freezing in the wind, I received a voice note from an unknown number. It was Lucia, the 16-year-old sister. Her voice was steady but shaking with pain. "You have no idea what you broke here. You didn't just hurt him, you hurt all of us. We thought you were family. We thought we could trust you." The silence after she stopped recording felt like a grave closing over me. I thought that was the end. Then one Monday morning, while I was signing papers at the office, the door opened without a knock. Lucia walked straight in wearing a black coat, hair in a severe ponytail, eyes that didn't blink. "Do you want to fix this?" she asked. I could only nod. "Then be quiet and come with me, not one word." I followed her to the car. She drove in silence, jaw clenched so tight I thought she might crack a tooth. 20 minutes later, we parked in front of a modest building with a small sign. Luz de Vida, Shelter and Hope. Children's drawings covered the walls, toys were neatly stacked, photos of birthdays and outings everywhere, and in almost every picture was Marcos. Holding toddlers, reading stories, painting faces, teaching kids to ride bikes. This wasn't an act. This was who he really was every single weekend, even when he was exhausted. "He's in the back with the new kids," Lucia said. We walked to an open play area. There he was on the floor, helping 3 little boys fold paper planes. When one of the children pointed at me, Marcos looked up. For a single second, our eyes met. Then his gaze slid past me like I was made of air. He stood, said goodbye to the kids, and left through a side door without a word. Lucia spoke softly. He comes here every Saturday and Sunday, no matter how tired he is, no matter how much his heart hurts. And the worst thing, he doesn't blame you. He blames himself for ever letting you close. I stayed that day until the last child went home. I swept floors, washed paint brushes, stacked chairs. No one thanked me. No one looked at me, and that was fine. The next Saturday, I came back on my own. I arrived early, set up the art tables, cleaned the juice cups that still smelled from the day before, arranged storybooks. Marcos walked past me like I was part of the furniture. Lucia watched me like a hawk. Even the littlest brother, who used to run into my arms, now hid behind Marcos. Weeks went by like that, me showing up, doing whatever needed doing, receiving nothing but silence. I cooked rice for 30 kids, folded donated clothes, read stories in funny voices, packaged hygiene kits. I wasn't trying to win points. I was trying to earn the right to breathe the same air as them again. One ordinary Wednesday, I was alone in the storage room sorting donations when the door slammed open. Marcos stormed in carrying heavy boxes, looking like the weight of the world had finally broken him. He didn't see me at first. He dropped the boxes, leaned against the wall, and I heard him whisper to himself, voice cracking, "They're cutting the electricity again. I can't keep pretending I've got everything under control. They think I'm some kind of hero, but I'm just trying." Then he noticed me. His face crumpled. "Of course, you." He turned to leave. Before I could think, I blurted out, "I'm not here for me. I'm here because I finally understood how deeply I wounded you, and because you deserve someone who stays even when you push them away, the same way you've always stayed for everyone else." He froze in the doorway. Lucia appeared seconds later, eyes blazing. "He doesn't need your forgiveness right now. He needs peace. If you're going to steal that from him too, walk away." I stayed. A few days later, I found a small note tucked into the donation cupboard in his handwriting. "Today after dinner, back room." My stomach flipped. At 7 sharp, I was sitting in the empty room, heart hammering. He walked in, closed the door gently, and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. The warmth was gone from his eyes, replaced by bone-deep exhaustion. "You wanted to talk," he said. "Talk. Then we go back to distance and respect." I could barely breathe. "I don't even know how to start." "Start with the truth. Why did you call me a pig?" The words poured out, how it was instant, stupid, cruel, unforgivable. How the blood and the intimacy of the moment panicked me. How instead of handling my own insecurity, I lashed out at him. He listened without moving. When I finished, he spoke quietly. "Do you have any idea what it feels like to have the person you love look at you like you're a predator while you're on your knees comforting your terrified little sister? Do you know what it does to hear the same garbage your parents used to scream at you? Monster, pervert, worthless. Come out of the mouth of the woman you thought saw you clearly." Tears rolled down my face. He kept going, voice low but shaking. "I've never been their father on paper, but I've wiped every tear, paid every bill with overtime I could barely stand through, held them when nightmares came. And in 1 second you made it dirty. You made me terrified that deep down you always saw me as something sick." "No," I managed to choke out. "Never. That morning I felt useless next to everything you carry every single day, and instead of admitting I was scared I wouldn't measure up, I attacked you. It was cowardice, not truth." He looked at me for a long time, then he nodded once barely and walked out. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was simply the first moment he allowed me to speak without turning away. And for now, that is enough. I still show up every weekend. I still do whatever needs doing. Some days he nods hello, some days he still looks right through me. The kids are starting to smile at me again. Lucia no longer watches me like she wants to throw me out a window. I don't know if we will ever get back what we had. But I know I will keep coming back, keep sweeping the floors, keep earning, one quiet Saturday at a time. The right to stand in the same room as the best man I've ever known without feeling ashamed of the space I take up. Because he deserves that. They all do. Shattered the one thing you had guarded with your life, your dignity. He dropped his gaze for a second, then spoke so softly I almost missed it. "That's exactly why I'm still here, because you finally saw it. I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will be, but I'm ready to listen. Even when everything is cracked, I still believe people can grow. And sometimes the person who caused the wound is the only one who can tend to it, not the way they wish, but the only way they know how." In that moment, I understood. He hadn't flung the door wide open. He had simply turned the key a fraction. It was enough. The first hairline fracture in the wall I had helped raise between us. I walked out of that room with tears streaming, knees shaking, but my heart a little less splintered. He had listened. For the first time since the collapse, hope felt possible. A week later, the center's coordinator approached him with an offer, a regional conference on youth and family rebuilding. They wanted real voices, real journeys. They wanted Marcos to speak, the brother who became a father, the man who stitched a family together with no pattern, no safety net, no sleep. He refused instantly. "I'm nobody's poster boy," he muttered, tossing the mop into the bucket. "I just did what had to be done. I still mess up every day." Lucia, carrying the same steel he did, cut in. "That's exactly why, Marcos, because you're not polished. You're real, the world is starving for real." He wavered. In the days that followed, I watched the battle play across his face, the instinct to disappear versus the need to shield what he had created. I kept quiet. I simply stayed near. I offered to help with the presentation, the outline, the timing. He accepted with reluctance, but he accepted. I remained on the edge, a quiet presence he no longer pushed away. The day of the event, the hall was packed. Teachers, social workers, students. A long table, a microphone, a giant screen flashing his name, Marcos Sanz, the strength of choosing to stay. He climbed the steps slowly, plain shirt, hair tied back, polite applause. He gripped the microphone, opened his mouth, and everything locked. His eyes darted across the crowd, unfocused. His hands shook. His throat closed. The coordinator leaned forward, worried. The room grew heavy. I didn't think, I just rose. "Excuse me," I said, voice trembling but loud enough. I walked onto the stage while every head turned. I gently took the microphone from his frozen fingers, not to steal his moment, but to shield him. "I know you didn't come to hear me," I began, "but if you'll let me, I want to tell you about this man." He started to protest. I kept going. "My name isn't important. What matters is that I lived beside him and watched the impossible become ordinary. He didn't just raise siblings. He raised whole, honest, brave humans. He built the kind of home many people with perfect parents never managed to create. I've seen him up at 5 making packed lunches. I've seen him pull all-nighters over homework. I've seen him work 3 jobs so dignity would never be missing from that house. I've seen him kneel beside a terrified 12-year-old who didn't understand why she was bleeding and comfort her with more tenderness and respect than many mothers ever show. He doesn't think he belongs on this stage because men like him have never been invited to one. He has no degree in child psychology, only the raw courage to build safety out of chaos. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pure heroism." The applause started slow, then thundered. People stood. I turned to him. A tiny, restrained smile fought its way onto his face, the first since everything had shattered. He took the microphone back, eyes shining. "Thank you," he whispered, voice thick, "for seeing me." Then he told his story, plain, unvarnished truth. For the first time in months, I didn't cry from shame. I cried from pride. And that was when the shift began, not with grand gestures or tearful apologies, but the way real life heals. Quietly, slowly, carefully. The following week I arrived at the center and Marcos was already squeezing oranges in the kitchen. When he saw me, he didn't look away. "There's more fruit in the fridge if you want to help." That was all. The first moment without tension between us. I started going with them to social worker meetings, delivering donations, filling forms. Occasionally, he'd make a dry joke about my hopeless filing system. I'd fake outrage, he'd pretend to buy it. Slowly, the siblings thawed too. Miguel, who once hid behind Marcos's legs, began greeting me with a shy hi. Lucia stayed guarded longest, but one afternoon, watching me scrub dried paint off tables, she muttered, "You missed a spot," and handed me a rag. It was small, it was everything. I slipped back into conversations, shared glances, quiet laughter, not as the girlfriend, not as someone who had once belonged, but as someone who chose to stay out of respect after causing ruin. Marcos stopped leaving rooms when I entered. Sometimes we talked about the kids, sometimes about nothing. One night we sat on the center's terrace watching the little ones chase each other with flashlights. We said nothing for half an hour. When the wind picked up, he silently passed me a blanket. It spoke louder than any "I forgive you." There was never a conversation about getting back together. No kiss, no possessive touch, no hint. Because sometimes love isn't about reclaiming what was. It's about honoring what remains and building something new from the ashes. Months later, we are still in that gentle in-between. He keeps carrying the world on shoulders that have been ignored too often. I stay beside him, not expecting to be loved again, but finally understanding what love actually is. Showing up, whole and present, asking nothing except the chance to keep doing right. The same silence that once crushed me is now the quiet space where, little by little, we are learning to begin again. A few nights before everything changed for good, something happened that might have been the true turning point. The kids were asleep, the center silent. I was washing dishes slowly so the clatter wouldn't wake anyone. Marcos appeared holding 2 mugs of tea. He set one beside me without a word and leaned in the doorway, watching the dark garden. "Lucia told me you once slept on the hospital sidewalk when Miguel had pneumonia," I said, breaking the stillness. He nodded, eyes distant. No bus fare, staying there was closer than going home. We had never spoken about any of it. "There's not much to say," he continued, voice low. "It was war. They just called it family." He took a slow sip. "I was 10, woke up to bottles smashing, hid under the kitchen table for hours while they tried to destroy each other. Mom screamed she'd rather be dead than keep living with us. Dad said she was only breathing because no one had bothered to finish her. That night I promised myself my siblings would only be afraid of movie monsters, never the voices in their own house. That they'd wake up to coffee, not vomit. That they'd know what love feels like, even if the only person capable of giving it was me." I moved closer, careful, reverent, and sat beside him. "When you said that word, for a second I didn't see you. I saw her, that same filthy look, and I panicked." I swallowed hard. "Marcos, I have no sentence big enough to erase it. But if I could spend the rest of my life offering silence, listening, presence as my apology, I would." He met my eyes, really met them. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, I honestly don't, but the anger is gone. And that already feels like a lot." I nodded, throat burning. "It's everything to me." In that moment, we weren't ex-lovers or characters in a tragic story. We were 2 survivors of different kinds of abandonment, doing the best we could with the pieces left. Some broken things don't become trash. Sometimes they become shelter. The next week felt lighter. The air itself seemed to breathe easier. The kids, the siblings, even I moved to a new rhythm. On Friday, Lucia texted. Saturday, 3 p.m. "Chocolate cake, blue balloons, don't be late." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Miguel's birthday, the little one who wouldn't take a sweet from my hand for months. I arrived early, helped hang streamers, fold napkins, pour juice. This time no one assigned me tasks, I was simply part of it. When they called everyone to sing, I hung back. It was their family moment. Then Miguel spotted me across the garden, stopped mid-circle and pointed. "You come too, you always blow up the balloons." I walked over on unsteady legs. Marcos shifted aside, making space, small but unmistakable. We sang off-key, loud and happy. After the candles, Lucia walked straight to me holding a plate piled high. "No nuts," she said without meeting my eyes. "I remember you hate them." It was nothing. It was the entire world. I sat on the same old bench with my cake, trying not to cry into the frosting. Marcos came and sat beside me. "How was work?" he asked, watching the kids chase bubbles. "Exhausting. New system at the office. It's like teaching goldfish to file taxes." He laughed, short, genuine. "You'll figure it out. You always do, even when you hate it." We talked for 20 minutes about traffic, juice recipes, the superhero movie the kids dragged him to. Nothing heavy, no past. Just words dropped like tiny seeds into soil that finally felt less parched. Peace doesn't crash through the door, it seeps through the cracks. That day the window was open a little wider. 2 weeks later, after a calm afternoon of poster paint and Lucia scrubbing brushes with a face that no longer looked ready to bite, Marcos asked me to stay. We sat alone in the dining room. "They called yesterday," he said without preamble. "NGO in another city. Permanent contract, big house with space for the kids, free therapy for all of them, real salary, peace." The word hung between us. "Sounds perfect," I answered, keeping my voice level. "It's far." I took a breath, looked straight into the eyes I still knew by heart, and said, "Go," he blinked. "Just like that. You don't owe me anything, Marcos. If that place gives you even an ounce less weight on your shoulders, you've waited lifetimes for it." Something cracked in his expression, not anger, fear. "I don't want to look ungrateful. You've done so much. I didn't do it so you'd owe me," I cut in gently. "I did it because it was right, and because even if we never share a coffee again, I will always want you and those kids breathing easier." He searched my face for a long time. "That's enough. It's everything." In the days that followed, I threw myself into the move. School transfers, medical records, certified copies, new sneakers, packed boxes. On the last afternoon, Lucia hugged me out of nowhere, quick, fierce, wordless. Miguel pressed a colored pencil drawing into my hands, 4 stick figures under a bright yellow sun. One of them had my haircut. I stood in the empty center long after their car disappeared down the road, holding that drawing against my chest, tears falling onto the paper sun. I don't know if our paths will cross again, but for the first time I'm not afraid of the answer. Because love, real love, isn't owning someone. It's setting them free and still choosing to do right by them every single day you're given. And I will keep choosing that quietly, steadily, for as long as I breathe. Thank you for being part of our community. Your likes, comments, and shares help us bring more unbelievable Reddit family stories every day. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a shocking story.